A real hit this year in the Toyo tyres British Rallycross Championship has been the mix of the Super1600s, the BMW Minis and the hot hatches. And here at Pembrey we're getting ready for the first of the two semi-finals with a great mix of cars on display. David Bell and here Paul Coney among the drivers. The experienced Mike Boak has been the man to beat across all three qualifying races though. Darren Scott second, Paul Coney third, with Martin Hawks being the best of those in the BMW Mini Cooper S's. And there's some good battling going on there as well. Semi-final one about to get underway. 6 laps of action then. Drivers on the grid. They look towards the lighting gantry, ready for the lights to blink green. And when they do, it will be time to go racing. Paul Coney, you're riding with him, gets up alongside Martin Hawks on the run down towards the first corner. Some serve the joker lap straight away, including 22 Drew Bellaby, who even gains a place, breaks really late. A drama for Mike Boak, the man on pole. He's got the bonnet up. It's flown into the screen, and the man that's dominated the day thus far is going to be out of the semi-final because the bonnet has blown up like a pin wasn't secured. It's hit the windscreen. He can't see where he's going, and Mike Boak's race is over virtually as it begins. So Paul Coney now is absolutely gifted the race lead. It's Martin Hawks in second spot as they work their way across the loose for the first time. Coney in the Corsa VXR getting sideways, but real drama for Mike Boak. He led off the line, he got to Hatchett's in the lead, and then the air got underneath the bodywork, blew it up onto the windscreen of the car, and his race is done. Terry Durden in 98 battles on, and there's somebody else in real strife there. Is that Drew Bellaby? Possibly it is. Way out wide, coming towards Honda Curve, back onto the circuit, just ahead, look, of 82 of Lee Freeman. It's been a drama-filled first lap. Let's see what lap 2 has to offer as the cars pound over the line. 6 laps in the semis and the finals. Durden heads into Hatchett's then. Freeman ahead of Bellaby, who ducks up the inside and goes through, gains a place. Drew Bellaby alongside, as there, 66 is Rob Methold, and he's coming under attack now from Terry Durden. So, with the demise of Boak, what you've got is one Super 1600 car of Paul Coney rather dominating here, and all the other BMW Minis scrapping amongst themselves. They're squabbling for position. They're squabbling, of course, ultimately for points in their own championship. Across the loose they come. Terry Durden under attack from Drew Bellaby. Sister Page has been going, as ever, very strongly indeed in the Super Nationals, having been the dominant driver really in terms of final success this year in that category. Drew Bellaby looking still for honours though. Paul Coney has been the man to beat in Super 1600 this year, and there Martin Hawks working his way down towards the first corner. Battle still rage on behind as the leaders work their way past the pits over the timing line, and there a lock-up. Terry Durden has got a hard charging Drew Bellaby, not just behind but almost alongside, yes, and about to go through I reckon. Drew Bellaby does indeed take the place. Again, it pays, it seems, to get that joker lap out of the way early on, and then you can just concentrate on attacking, catching up to the traffic. And of course, if you serve it straight away, there's less time for gaps to open up amongst the traffic. So it does seem to work better for the drivers, especially those on the outside of the grid, to serve the joker rather than risk, first of all, losing time, but also risk damage by trying to cut into the traffic. Paul Coney, though, much quicker with the different spec of this car than the BMW Minis, is pushing clear. Look what's going on behind him. They've all concertinaed up now. Martin Hawks under attack. He's in the black and red Mini from Rob Methold in the green and white livery, who goes to the inside line. And now Drew Bellaby gets between the pair of them. Hawks has a problem, I think. He slows coming into Honda Curve. This is Paul Coney's view, the race leader way out on his own. In the mini fight, Drew Bellaby to the outside of Rob Methold. Now she's gained places here on the inside. This time round the outside, does it work? Yes, it does. Great racing this. Drew Bellaby driving fantastically. Now there is Boak. He's back in the action, having limped his way presumably to get the bonnet secured, and he's charging and charging and charging. But I fear he's too far down to really make a difference now. Let's see whether he can get himself back into that top 4. Through they turn. Hanging on to position, 22, Drew Bellaby. But there, Paul Coney accelerating through Honda Curve, well clear in the lead of the race. Now what's going on behind? There is the recovering Boak, bouncing onto the tail now of Drew Bellaby's Mini. The quicker Citroën in the Super 1600 division should go pounding past, but we'll see whether that's the case. And again, look, the bonnet continues to flap. I wouldn't be surprised if that didn't have another bid for freedom in a moment. Terry Durden, in the meantime, working his way through that chicane. And Boak does blast past, but has to serve the joker lap this time. Turns through the longer run around the Hatchett's hairpin. Of course, for race meetings, there's even more of the straight and a tighter corner at the end of it. Very spectacular part of Pembrey, especially for truck racing, which is a big hit here as well. But for Rallycross, this reconfigured circuit has delivered some great racing this weekend as Terry Durden goes a lap down against Paul Coney. On board with Coney as he goes from loose to tarmac, but the win is his for the taking, and crucially he's going to be on the front row of the grid for the final, and that is what they're all aiming for at this stage, to qualify and qualify well. Coney on his last lap, great view this, down through the gears. Paul Coney, experienced and successful not only in Britain but on the continent as well. He's got a string of wins and titles to his name, and another race win looks to be heading his way. Mike Boak, the man behind MB Motorsport, who prepares and races rallycross and rally cars as well, is a regular in the single venue Croft rallies in the winter months. Brakes as hard as possible there. The car almost gets away from him down at the hairpin. He makes the run now to try and move ahead of Drew Bellaby round the outside, and he's going to be able to do so on the run to Dibeni Bend, but with all the time lost early on, I fear this is a forlorn hope. Drew Bellaby locks up, goes back on the inside. They almost make contact, but Boak does just secure track position and sprint clear now. Paul Coney comes through. The win is his for the taking, as we keep saying. Is he going to see a checkered flag this time? Yes, he is. Paul Coney wins the first semi-final in the Super 1600s and the BMW Minis. Drew Bellaby accelerating across the loose. She's going to be the best of the Minis home, that is for sure. Having worked her way through the pack, and the same fighting spirit that you see from Sister Page on display here as well. So Drew Bellaby is going to be the best of those in the Mini competition at the end of semi-final one. Confirmation of the race result. Paul Coney the winner from Drew Bellaby, Lee Freeman third, and Rob Methold coming home fourth, with Mike Boak a lap down after his dramas early on. The second semi-final is set to get underway here. Darren Scott on pole position, Craig Lomax lining up with him at the front of the grid. This is going to be good as the lights go green. Craig Lomax bogs down as the cars blast away, and a good getaway by David Bell in the Mini from the outside of the front row. He now serves the joker, and going with him is Craig Lomax. So a slow start. How best to compensate for that? Well, first of all, get your joker lap out of the way, then you can just keep on pushing and try and claw back the time. It means then that Darren Scott in the Pertec car is going to be the race leader, and keep an eye there on a very sideways Phil Chicken, flapping his way through the chicane, you could suggest. He's now got Bradley Durden right up behind him as well. Chicken just about hung onto that, but I thought for one moment it was going to get away from him. So Darren Scott leads, Phil Chicken is second, third Bradley Durden, whose dad Terry was in the earlier semi-final, and then in fourth place Andrew Hawkes as they come through the dust storm. David Bell, after the joker has dropped back, of course he'll gain places again, and so too will the man behind him, Craig Lomax, former Super 1600 British champion. So for now, Darren Scott leads the way, and he's trying to build up that advantage. On board with Lomax, heading now up over the timing line. Moves himself ahead of David Bell, who almost gets into the back of him there as they dive down towards Hatchett's. There was contact, and that's just slightly distorted the bodywork at the back of Lomax's Citroën. David Bell's main target, though, isn't to necessarily beat the Super 1600s. Good if he can, but he's got to be the best of the Minis home to make sure that he qualifies for the final and outscores his rivals. Bell, former champion, probably the benchmark driver in the BMW Mini class. This is Craig Lomax's view, and you can see just how hard you've got to work. He works his way across the loose. Lomax now getting himself onto the back of Bradley Durden, another of the graduates of junior rallycross and indeed the Swift Sport category. Rear wheels kick high into the air as they bounce their way across the loose and hit the tarmac again. The gap between the leaders, though, is coming down. Darren Scott being reeled in by Phil Chicken, another hugely experienced driver, Phil, who seems, in fairness, to get better and better season on season. Over the line and now down to the hairpin, turn right. Up towards Dibeni Bend they go, and there you can see 62 Phil Chicken maintaining his spot ahead of the opposition. So Darren Scott leading the way, Phil Chicken in second place. Craig Lomax now up into third, so it looks as though we're going to get all of these three Super 1600s through to the main final, and of course that will put them directly up against Paul Coney. That promises to be a really good battle, especially given how well the likes of Chicken and Mike Boak, sadly no more in the competition, have gone today. In other words, it's not purely about Paul Coney today. The competition level in Super 1600 is a lot fiercer than we've had previously this season. Craig Lomax there, comes out of Honda curve, blasts his way over the timing line, but up front Darren Scott continues to lead. Phil Chickin second, Craig Lomax in third place. They brake hard for the first corner, the nose drops onto the ground, there's tyre smoke as they lock up. You're either flat out or hard on the brakes, there's no middle ground in Rallycross, and it is a busy time inside the office. Darren Scott though maintaining this advantage as he heads towards the loose section again. There you can see third place man Craig Lomax. Now Craig knows exactly how to win in these cars. Darren Scott, the race leader, had a really tough start to the championship season at Croft, but he had better pace at Lyddon and he's going strongly here as well. So the final promises to be a really good battle. Through they turn as the dust is kicked up by the charging 24 there, Craig Lomax. He'll hit the tarmac in a moment. But Darren Scott continues to lead from Phil Chickin as they turn out of Honda curve now, up towards the timing line again. That's another lap in the book, but not for Andrew Hawkes. His race comes to an early end. It seems he slows right down and he's limping into retirement. Phil Chickin on the handbrake, I think, tries to get the car around the corner there. Scandinavian flick as he goes into turn one. And now Darren Scott, having served his joker, falls back into third place. But he's got the momentum. Can he come up and challenge Lomax? The answer for the moment is going to be no. Phil Chickin it is now in the lead of the race, but can he hang on in there? On board with Lomax now. On the loose, avoiding the tyre stacks. Back on the power. It's great watching them at work. The arms never still as they have to apply the steering, apply the correction and balance the throttle against the grip as well. So you've now got 24, Craig Lomax hustling on. There is Darren Scott behind him. He served his joker. Is he going to buy back any places before the end? Let's see. The last lap board is ready and Phil Chickin will go across the line now. Pursued oh so hard by Craig Lomax. There, lower down the order, is Bradley Durden, still hustling on in the mini part of the race. So Phil Chickin leads Craig Lomax, leads Darren Scott. All joker laps now served. It's a straightforward dash to the flag between the top three, and Chickin looks as though he's got enough in hand. To the right and left they come. There you've got Lomax in second place. Now Darren Scott then thwarted a win, but at least he will qualify. He's in that top four. Yellow flag being shown there. Now what's happened? Has somebody hit the tyres or has somebody had a moment and stopped on track? It's not going to affect Phil Chickin, I don't think, because he's got enough of a margin. Back to the tarmac he comes now, heading up towards the right-hander of Honda curve, then to the timing line where the checkered flag awaits, and it is going to be a win in semi-final two for Phil Chickin, who comes through now, pursued by Craig Lomax, and in the end Darren Scott has fallen a long way back in third place with David Bell, the best of the mini drivers, coming through in fourth. Has Scott got a problem maybe? Confirmation of the results. Phil Chickin, Citroen C2 wins from the similar cars of Craig Lomax and Darren Scott. David Bell, the other qualifier, in fourth ahead of Bradley Durden and Jenny Hawkes. The final ready to get underway here at Pembrey. Paul Coney, Phil Chickin, Craig Lomax, the front of the grid ahead of Drew Bellaby, and then Darren Scott with a bit of work to do from row two. Lee Freeman, David Bell and Rob Methel on the back row. The Super 1600s, the quicker cars, are going to be disputing the lead. Keep an eye to the BMW Minis as the lights go green and we go racing. On board with Paul Coney, down towards turn one. There you see Lomax and Scott go for the joker. Coney leads the way, but he's got Phil Chickin right up behind him. In fact, about half the field gets the joker out of the way early on. And Paul Coney, I suppose in a sense, had no option really on the inside line. It was risky to cut across and take the joker, so he's therefore from pole position committed to the inside. He has to take the normal route through the first corner, and now he's got to push like crazy and try and build up an advantage while everybody else is in the dust behind him. Going with him though is Phil Chickin second, and then the best of the minis for the moment is David Bell. Lomax has rejoined fourth after the joker, Darren Scott fifth. Race leaders working their way through the dust across the loose for the first time, but looking oh so strong up front as he has done all year is Paul Coney. He normally takes quite a lot of stopping. This is Craig Lomax's view, closing on David Bell. Right up behind him as they come now through Honda curve. Is he going to be able to make a run down to the first corner? And Coney gets it wrong. Does he under braking? He gets sideways, he corrects it, he goes wide. Phil Chicken tries to duck up the inside, but then doesn't get the drive out of the corner. Coney there gets a get out of jail free card. Has Phil Chicken got a problem? Paul Coney, race leader. Phil Chicken is back onto the tail of him, but he just didn't get the run coming out of the first turn as Coney ran wide and all sideways. Craig Lomax is third, keeping at bay Darren Scott as they work their way towards the loose. But Paul Coney then, having got oh so sideways under braking, actually came out of the corner with a bigger lead as something hit Phil Chicken. So Coney in this immaculate Vauxhall Corsa scampers back towards the tarmac. Down to the final right at Honda Curve, ticking away the laps then. Chicken is second, Lomax third. Now what will he inherit when the other two take the joker laps? Let's see. There in fourth place is Darren Scott, working his way out of Honda Curve and then up over the timing line. 66 there, you've got Rob Methold threading his way across the loose. Again, one of the quick BMW Mini drivers in all of this. Darren Scott goes through as Phil Chicken, having served the joker lap, falls to third but tries to come around the outside of him. Can't do it, has to slot back in behind. To the loose they head now, nose to tail, these two, and is there contact? Chicken getting into the back of Lomax. Darren Scott, the next one to come up to have a nibble at Chicken. The two of them, nose to tail, but Phil fends him off for the moment. So while they're squabbling like this, of course, it's delaying them and in real terms enabling the race leader, Paul Coney, to build a gap that he will need, of course, bearing in mind he's got to serve the joker lap. To the tarmac they come once again. Through the right-hander and then over the timing line. Down towards turn one goes Paul Coney, and again he's so late on the brakes, you see the tyre smoke as the car tries to get away from him. He takes the joker lap this time and continues in the lead. That is the style of a champion. Ultra fast laps, build up an advantage, consolidate that on the joker, helped in part by them all squabbling behind him, and Paul Coney now is in the pound seats, isn't he, for another victory here. Second is Lomax, third is Chicken, fourth is Scott. It's Super 1600s, not surprisingly, first, second, third and fourth. They are the quicker cars, they're more modified, they're more technical, and at the moment it's the Vauxhall ahead of all of the Citroens. Paul Coney once again underlining his class here. Through they turn, across the loose section, back to tarmac, and up front, looking oh so strong. The race leader, Paul Coney, in a moment will turn his way over the timing line. There, look, you've got 66, which is Rob Methold. Now he, in turn, is hunting down David Bell in the mini battle as a lock-up from Phil Chicken heralds his arrival down towards turn one. The rest of the field file through. But for the moment, Craig Lomax looking as though he's going to be able to hang on to that second place, because try as he might, Phil Chicken just can't get close enough. Partly because every time he hits the brakes, the car seems to want to turn a different direction than the one he wants it to go in. Again, as he brakes there, going up towards that chicane, you see how nervous the car is, how darty it is. Phil Chicken's doing a great job to hang on to third place, because one little mistake and Darren Scott will be up and past him. But Paul Coney leads the pack, and Paul Coney looks like it's going to be a race win for him. Darren Scott then in fourth spot, Phil Chicken third, Craig Lomax second as they work their way off on the curve and up towards the line. One more lap to run then, but Coney is away and gone. It's another dominant display in Super 1600. But what's encouraging this weekend is how competitive it's been. It's a shame we don't get Mike Boak in the final after the way that he went in qualifying. That really has been, I think, to the benefit of Paul Coney, because Boak was looking really hard to stop in the earlier qualifying races. When the bonnet flew into the windscreen on the opening lap of his semi-final, that effectively put pay to Mike Boak's challenge for the weekend. Now what's happened to Darren Scott? Suddenly he's dropped back from Phil Chicken. The car faded at the end of the semi-final that he was in, and it looks like it's happening again for Darren Scott here. Look, the gap has really widened, and he's a distant fourth. Now it is just two of them fighting for second. Lomax ahead of Chicken. Scott nowhere really in that battle anymore. He's fallen a long way back as there, look, Paul Coney makes his way up towards the checkered flag. The race win is there for the taking. The Super 1600 final is going to be won by Paul Coney here at Pembrey. He goes through to take the checkered flag to win. Craig Lomax is going to be second. Phil Chicken is going to be third, and then look back as a smoky Chicken, in fact, goes across the line for the best of the minis, and that, in the end, is Drew Bellaby ahead of David Bell. Paul Coney, Craig Lomax, Phil Chicken, the top three. Bellamy, David Bell and Lee Freeman, the top three of the minis. So Paul Coney maintains his championship lead over Craig Lomax, with Phil Chicken up to third now in Super 1600. In the BMW Minis, David Bell has a 2-point advantage over Martin Hawks, who's only one ahead of Drew Bellamy. It's getting really close. Ready next for Mondello Park.